What's up, everybody? This is Big Sarge back with another video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about what a 68 Tango or an animal care specialist is, in case this is what you want to do if you decide to join the U.S. Army. So let's get into it. If you ever wonder who takes care of the Army's working dogs, horses, or even exotic animals in the military's care, then you're about to discover one of the most unique jobs in the entire U.S. Army, the 68 Tango, or the animal care specialist. This is a role that blends veterinary medicine, animal husbandry, and military service. Now, this isn't your typical 9-to-5 job. It's part science, part compassion, and part soldiering. You're not only responsible for the health and well-being of animals, but also ensuring that those animals can perform their mission, whether that's detecting explosions, providing security, or supporting ceremonial duties. So with all that being said, let's get into it. All right, so let's talk about the day in the life of a 68 Tango. So imagine waking up on base, putting on your uniform, and heading over to the veterinary treatment facility, or the VTF. Now, instead of only treating people like most Army medics, your patients, they bark, they wag tails, and some of them even slither. Now, as a 68 Tango, you could be assisting a veterinarian with surgery on a military working dog, giving vaccines to keep animals healthy and deployment ready, running lab tests on blood or fecal samples, inspecting food storage facilities, counseling a soldier who owns a pet on how to keep them healthy, or helping to manage the Army's working horse program or ceremonial units. Now, every day is different. Some days you're all about hands-on animal care, and other days you might spend hours in the lab running tests or doing facility inspections. Now, when it comes to the Army doesn't just keep animals around just for fun. Military working dogs in particular are an essential part of missions. They sniff out explosions, track down suspects, guard installations, and provide companionship to soldiers. Now, if these dogs aren't healthy, the missions can fail, and that's where a 68 Tango comes in. So their role is force protection. So healthy working dogs, this can mean safer patrols and missions. They also ensure readiness, so animals are medically cleared to deploy alongside their handlers. They also do food safety. So soldiers, they get safe, inspected food, and this part of the job often surprises people. So basically, you're a mix between a veterinarian technician, a food safety inspector, and a medical assistant. Exactly how do you get into this unique MOS? Well, you got to go to basic training just like every other soldier. So you're going to do 10 weeks of basic combat training. And this is where you're going to learn your soldiering skills from marching, shooting, physical fitness, and discipline. And after that, you're going to get shipped off to AIT, or Advanced Individual Training. And that takes place at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. And this is where most Army Medical MOS soldiers train, since it's home to the Army Medical Department Center and School. And the AIT for the 68 Tango is about 11 weeks long, and during that time you're going to learn about animal anatomy and physiology, veterinarian terminology, clinical techniques like drawing blood, giving injections, and assisting in surgery, radiology basics, pharmacy and lab work, food inspection procedures, and how to assist Army veterinarians in the field. So basically, AIT is very hands-on. You're going to practice on real animals under supervision, so by the time you graduate, you're confident working in a clinical setting. All right, so let's talk about some of the skills that you're going to need. So to be successful as a 68 Tango, you're going to need a blend of technical skills and personal traits. When it comes to the technical skills, you're going to need to understand biology and medicine. You're going to have to be comfortable with lab equipment. You're going to need to be precise with injections and surgical assistance. You're going to need to have some knowledge of animal behavior and handling. When it comes to your personal traits, you're going to have compassion, because animals, they cannot tell you what hurts, and you need to have empathy. You're going to need some patience, because some of the animals that you're going to be dealing with are going to be scared and or aggressive. You're going to need to have some discipline, because military working dogs, these are high value assets, and mistakes are not an option. And you're going to need to be able to communicate, because you're going to be talking to handlers, veterinarians, and other soldiers who have pets. All right, so exactly where are you going to work? Now, as a 68 Tango, your duty station could vary widely. You can be stationed anywhere in the U.S. because most large installations have VTFs where soldiers, pets, and military working dogs are treated. You could be sent overseas to bases in Europe, Asia, and the Mideast because they also have animal care specialists over there. You could find yourself deployed because there are veterinarians and military working dogs that are deployed as well. And some field environments you can find yourself in where you're setting up temporary veterinary clinics during exercises or real world missions. Now, one week you could be helping a family pet with an ear infection, and the next you might be prepping a dog for deployment to sniff out explosions in combat zones. That is the life of a 68 Tango. All right, next let's talk about career progression. So like other MOSs, 68 Tangos, they start out as junior enlisted soldiers, but with time and rank, responsibilities will grow. So for the ranks of E1 to E4, you're going to be hands-on with animal care where you're assisting in surgeries and doing lab work. By the time you hit ranks E5 and E6, you might be supervising clinics, mentoring junior soldiers, or leading food inspection teams. And then when you become a senior NCO, you might be managing entire veterinarian facilities, overseeing training programs, and advising commanders. Now, the Army also provides chances for specialized training in areas like advanced veterinarian techniques, public health, and leadership development. All right, next, let's talk about some civilian career opportunities. So serving as a 68 Tango, this can set you up nicely for civilian careers. Once you leave the Army, you can become a veterinarian technician where your training and experience, they align closely with civilian vet tech programs. And in some states, you can even skip parts of the certification process because of your Army training. You can find yourself as an animal shelter worker because your experience with animal health, this makes you valuable in shelters and rescue organizations. You might find yourself as a food safety inspector. So the food inspection side of this MOS translates directly into jobs with the USDA or FDA. You might find yourself as a lab technician where you're out there drawing blood, doing fecal exams and chemistry panels. All of those things are transferable. And you also might find yourself working at a zoo or some type of wildlife worker, working in an aquarium or some wildlife rehabilitation center, because all of your skills are transferable there as well. So in short, this MOS does not box you in. It can open doors for you. All right, so let's talk about the rewards of the job. So here's what makes 68 Tango a rewarding MOS. Well, one, you're working with animals every single day. You're helping missions succeed by keeping military working dogs healthy. You're giving back to soldiers and their families by caring for their pets. And you gain valuable civilian skills that can translate into post-military careers. Now, understand that this job does have some challenges, and one of them is emotional, difficult cases, because sometimes you're going to deal with very sick or injured animals. There is a level of high responsibility because a military working dog, it can be worth tens of thousands of dollars in training, and mistakes can be costly. You're going to find yourself possibly doing food inspection duties, and not every 68 Tango loves this part, but it is critical. And then there are deployments. So like any soldiers, you may be sent overseas, sometimes in some very austere environments. But if you're passionate about animals and service, then these challenges, they become part of the adventure. All right, so let's quickly get into some frequently asked questions when it comes to this MOS. And one question people like to ask is, do you have to love animals to be a 68 Tango? Absolutely. This MOS is perfect for animal lovers who want to serve their country. Another question is, do 68 Tangos only work with dogs? The answer is no. Now, while dogs are the most common, you may also work with cats, horses, or even exotic animals in some assignments. And then another question that people ask is being a 68 Tango a good stepping stone to becoming a veterinarian? And the answer is yes. Many 68 Tangos, they use their GI Bill benefits to go to vet school after leaving the Army. All right, so when it comes to the 68 Tango MOS, think about this. A military working dog is trained to sniff out explosions, which could save dozens of lives on deployment. Now, if that dog is not healthy, then it cannot do its job. Now, as a 68 Tango, you will be directly impacting mission success and protecting your fellow soldiers because you're keeping that dog healthy, and that is powerful. All right, so to wrap all this up, the 68 Tango MOS, this is one of the Army's most unique roles. It combines science, medicine, compassion, and soldiering all into one job. You're going to train at Fort Sam Houston. You're going to care for military working dogs, pets, and other animals. You're going to inspect food and ensure safety standards. And you're going to gain skills that transfer into civilian careers. And you're going to experience challenges, but also incredible rewards. So if you're an animal lover who wants to wear the uniform and serve, then this MOS might be your dream job.